Okay, I have to be honest with you. When I opened the packet for today's deep dive, I actually thought there was a mistake at the printer.
Yeah, I can see why.
I thought maybe someone in the research department was playing a prank on me.
It definitely stops you in your tracks, doesn't it?
That is putting it mildly. The title of the source material we are covering today is simply, Is the Pope Atheist?
Hmm.
And I just stared at it. I mean, on the surface, that is a completely absurd question. It sounds like a paradox.
It does.
It sounds like the setup to a really bad bar joke. The Pope walks into a bar and says, God is dead. It doesn't make sense.
It triggers a kind of cognitive dissonance right away.
Exactly. The Pope is, by definition, the vicar of Christ. He is the ultimate religious figure, certainly in the Western world. If the Pope is an atheist, then words just don't mean anything anymore.
And we can all just pack it in.
Right. We might as well pack up the show and go home.
It sounds like a contradiction in terms, absolutely. But that provocation, that shock value, it's intentional. And I promise you, we are not here to do some kind of theological takedown. We aren't going to try and analyze the Pope's internal spiritual life or his private prayers.
Good, because I am definitely not qualified for that.
None of us are. That's between him and his creator. Instead, we are doing something that I think is actually much more interesting. We are doing a behavioral analysis.
Okay.
We're taking a specific chapter from our source material, which is all about risk and rationality, and using the Pope as the ultimate stress test for a theory about human nature.
So this isn't about what the Pope thinks. It's about what the Pope does.
Precisely. The core mission of this deep dive is to analyze actions, specifically how human beings behave when the stakes are absolute, when it is literally life and death. And the argument is that there is often a massive unacknowledged canyon between what we say we believe, our words, and how we act when survival is on the line, our deeds.
And the Pope is the perfect case study because his words are as religious as you can possibly get.
They're the gold standard of religious words.
So if his deeds tell a different story, well then that story probably applies to just about everyone.
Exactly. If we can show that even the Pope's actions in a moment of extreme crisis align with a certain type of secular rationality, then it completely redefines how we understand belief, atheism, and rationality itself.
Okay, let's unpack this. To really understand the weight of this argument, we have to leave the theoretical and go to the historical. We need to set the scene.
We do.
We are going back to May 13th, 1981, St. Peter's Square.
A day that changed the modern Vatican forever.
It's a beautiful spring day in Rome. You can picture it, right? Thousands of pilgrims. The mood is electric. Pope John Paul II is moving through the crowd in that open-top vehicle, the Pope-mobile. This is before it had all the bulletproof glass we see today.
He was much more exposed.
Totally. He's waving, he's holding babies. It is a moment of pure celebration.
And then the unthinkable happens.
Shots ring out. And it's not a firecracker. It's Mehmet Ali Aska, a trained assassin, firing a 9mm pistol directly at the pontiff. 4 bullets hit him.
It was devastating. 2 in the stomach, 1 in the right arm, 1 in the left hand.
Right.
He just collapses into the arms of his aides.
It was absolute chaos. If you look at the footage, the birds scatter, people are screaming, the pristine white vehicle is suddenly stained with red. It is just pandemonium. But what happens in the next few minutes, in the immediate aftermath, that's what our source material laser focuses on. This is where the philosophy meets the pavement.
Literally.
Right. The Pope is critically wounded. He is losing blood fast. His blood pressure is plummeting. He is inching toward death. Now, in that split second, a decision has to be made by the people around him. Where do they take him?
And this is where the specific details matter immensely. So they rush him to the ambulance. And the destination isn't just a hospital. It is the Agostino Gemelli University Polyclinic.
The Gemelli.
The Gemelli. And that choice was not random. The source makes a very specific point to note, that the Gemelli housed the most skilled, most modern doctors Italy could produce.
So a center of excellence.
A center of cutting-edge secular medical science. They specifically chose it over neighboring public hospitals that might have been physically closer but had, lower quality care.
So in the moment of crisis, with the life of the Vicar of Christ hanging in the balance, the #1 priority was finding the absolute best medical technology available.
Correct. And it's noted that the Gemelli subsequently became the pontiff's preferred destination for any health issue for the rest of his life. But let's pause on that ambulance ride.
Okay.
Because that ride contains the entire argument of this deep dive.
This brings us to what the source calls the ambulance test. And I have to say, when I first read this part, I rolled my eyes a little bit. I thought, well, obviously they went to the hospital. What's the big deal?
Mm-hmm. It seems self-evident.
But the more I thought about it, the weirder it got.
It's a thought experiment, but it's one that's based on the cold, hard reality of that day.
Yeah.
Let's look at the decision-making process of the drivers and the Vatican officials in that vehicle.
Right, what's going through their heads?
Our source points out a critical observation. At no point during that emergency ride did anyone, not one person, consider taking Pope John Paul II to a chapel first.
A chapel.
A chapel, a shrine, a holy site. There was no detour to a cathedral for a quick prayer or to ask for divine intercession before getting to the doctors.
Okay, but play devil's advocate with me here.
Please.
If the driver had turned toward a church while the Pope was bleeding out, the guy would have been tackled. It sounds ridiculous. Of course they didn't go to a chapel first.
And that reaction you're having right now, that of course not reaction. That is the entire point. Why does it sound ridiculous?
Because he needs surgery. He needs blood. He needs a team of doctors, not priests.
Right. But if you truly 100% believed, if you strictly follow the theology without any deviation, that God is the ultimate arbiter of life and death, and that miracles are superior to any human intervention, shouldn't the logical first step be to take him to God?
I see what you're getting at. If I really believed that prayer was the most powerful tool in the universe...
More powerful than a scalpel.
Right. More powerful than a scalpel. I would use the most powerful tool first. I would give the Lord the sacred first right of refusal, as the source puts it.
But they didn't.
Yeah.
There was no sacred first right of refusal. The priority list was crystal clear, and it was unspoken.
What was it?
Medical science first, theology second.
It's like... Okay, imagine a skydiver. If a skydiver says he believes that God will save him, does he pull the ripcord after he prays? Or does he pray while he's pulling the ripcord?
Or does he not pull the ripcord at all and just wait for angels to catch him?
Right.
The fact that he pulls the cord is the ambulance test. It's what the source calls the inversion of logical sequence.
The inversion. Break that down for me.
Logically, if A, God is more powerful than B, medicine, you should always try A first. If you believe miraculous intervention is the most potent force in the universe, and medicine is a distant second, the sequence should be prayer, then doctor.
But that's not what happens.
But the universal human behavior, even for the Pope, the most religious man alive, is doctor, then prayer.
So the physical action always takes precedence over the spiritual appeal.
Always. And the source says that doing it the other way around, going to the church first, would be considered madness.
Yeah.
By everyone involved, even the Vatican.
That's a strong word, madness.
It is. If that driver had turned the wheel towards St. Peter's Basilica instead of the Gemelli, he wouldn't be praised for his faith. He would be arrested for negligence. He would be seen as insane.
So this is the hook. By looking at where that ambulance went, we are defining what true belief actually looks like in the real world.
Exactly.
We are stripping away the costumes and the speeches and the incense and looking at the raw survival instinct.
We're distinguishing between what the source calls decorative beliefs and structural beliefs. When survival is on the table, almost everyone acts the same way. The Pope acts like a rational materialist.
Now, I want to be really careful here because I can hear some listeners screaming at their radios right now. This doesn't mean the Pope is a hypocrite, does it? It doesn't mean he didn't have faith.
No, not at all. And the source is very, very careful to clarify this. This reliance on doctors does not violate Catholic tenets. We are not calling the Pope a fraud.
Right. It's not like the Ten Commandments say, thou shalt not go to the ER.
In fact, it's the opposite. The source notes that voluntary death is banned in the church. Suicide, or allowing oneself to die when help is available, is considered a grave sin.
Oh.
Therefore, seeking life-saving treatment is actually mandatory under Catholic doctrine.
So, in a weird twist, the Pope was actually being a good Catholic by acting like an atheist and rushing to the doctors.
Precisely. And let's not forget the role of prayer. It's not that prayer didn't happen. While the ambulance was speeding to Gemelli, and while the surgery was happening for hours, what were the bishops, cardinals, and laypeople doing?
They were praying. I remember the stories. People in St. Peter's Square just falling to their knees on the cobblestones, rosaries everywhere.
They absolutely prayed. And after the Pope made his remarkable recovery, which it was, they believed those prayers were answered. They believed God guided the surgeon's hands. They believed the bullet missed his main artery by millimeters because of divine intervention.
So it's a synthesis. It's not one or the other. It's not science versus faith.
It is a synthesis, but look at the structure of that synthesis. This is crucial. Prayer acts as a co-pilot.
A co-pilot.
It's a subsequent action. It accompanies the medical treatment. It never, ever replaces it.
It's never the primary strategy for survival. It's the value add.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And the source notes that nobody in the Vatican seems to see a conflict with this inversion. They don't feel a cognitive dissonance. They don't see it as a lack of faith to put the doctor first. It's just what you do.
It's interesting. The source mentions this isn't a new phenomenon. This isn't just modern popes succumbing to the allure of modern science. This goes all the way back.
Way, way back. To the Roman emperors.
Oh, this is a great parallel.
The source draws a fascinating historical line here. The Roman emperors were the Pontifex Maximus of their day, the high priests. The title the Pope uses now. That was Caesar's title first.
And the emperors were often considered semi-divine themselves. Living gods, some of them.
Correct. But when a Roman emperor got sick or took an arrow to the shoulder in Germania, did they rely on their own divinity? No.
They called a doctor.
They sought treatment first. They called for the best Greek physicians in the empire. Recourse to theology to the gods came later.
I love the nuance the source adds here about the packaging, though. The branding of the cure.
Oh, it was brilliant marketing. The emperors would often package the medical treatment as being delivered by the deities. They might say the cure came from Asclepius, the Greek god of healing, or Vitiovis, the Roman equivalent.
So they'd take the bitter herbs, they'd get the wound stitched up, but then they'd slap a sponsored by Zeus sticker on the recovery.
Exactly. This penicillin is brought to you by Apollo. But structurally, the method was still treatment first.
Just matter what you call it.
Whether you attribute the penicillin to a fungus or to a sun god, you were still taking the penicillin. The action remains the same. The rationality is the same.
This brings us to the comparative analysis, which I think is where this argument really gets its teeth.
Yes.
Because right now, we've just been talking about the Pope. But to prove he acts like an atheist, we need to compare him to one.
We need a control group.
Right. So the source asks us to imagine this hypothetical scenario. We have the Pope in one ambulance, but in a parallel universe, imagine we have a powerful head of a militant atheist sect.
Let's construct this character. A high-ranking atheist leader, let's say someone with the same social status and power as the Pope, but who completely rejects all religion. Someone who thinks the Vatican is, a fairy tale factory.
Okay, I'm picturing him. Maybe he's wearing a Sharper Monty suit, maybe a black turtleneck. Very rational, very serious.
And this atheist leader gets shot. Same wound, same day, same city.
So we have a split screen. Pope on the left, atheist leader on the right. Both bleeding out, both in the back of an ambulance.
The source walks us through this atheist Pope scenario. Where does his ambulance go?
It goes to Gemelli.
It goes to the exact same top-tier hospital.
Yeah.
He doesn't go to a second-rate hospital in Latium just to prove a point about public funding or something.
No, he's not a martyr. He wants to live.
He wants the best modern science has to offer.
So they arrive at the same place. They are wheeled into adjacent operating rooms. They're surrounded by people.
And here is where we can actually see the differences. The source paints a picture of the scene. The Pope is surrounded by cardinals in their red robes, nuns in habits, priests holding crucifixes. They are chanting, praying, crying out to heaven.
And the atheist leader?
He is surrounded by his colleagues, his deputies, his followers. Maybe they're checking their phones for updates. Maybe they're pacing nervously in the hallway.
Yeah, what are they doing? They aren't praying.
No. The source says they offer hope or wishes for a good recovery. They construct a self-consistent narrative about their desires for the outcome.
So they say things like,
We hope the surgery goes well. We wish for a speedy recovery. The odds are in his favor. He's strong.
It's a vocabulary shift.
It is. Instead of prayers, it's wishes. Instead of God's will, it's hope. Instead of amen, it's fingers crossed.
And what about visually?
The source notes, a little cheekily, that the atheists would likely be less colorfully dressed.
True. It is hard to compete with the Vatican when it comes to costumes. The Swiss Guard alone wins the fashion show.
And their vocabulary would be less ornamental, less Latin, less poetry, more statistics maybe. But, and this is the critical conclusion of the comparison, their actions regarding survival and medical reliance would be nearly identical to the Pope's.
They are both lying on a stretcher, helpless, trusting a surgeon with a sharp piece of metal to stitch them up.
They are both betting their lives on the exact same science, the exact same biology, the exact same blood transfusions.
The differences are cosmetic.
They are functional equivalents. One group wears red robes and speaks to the divine. The other wears suits and speaks to the odds. But both groups are operating under the exact same survival logic.
Wow. That is a heavy realization. Because if the Pope acts like an atheist in the ER, and the atheist acts like, well, like a rational survivor, where do the differences actually lie? Because clearly a Pope is different from a secular leader. They aren't the same person.
They're not. And the source argues that the differences are very real, but they lie almost exclusively in matters that are not life-threatening.
The decorative versus the structural again.
Think of it as lifestyle and ritual. The Pope makes significant sacrifices that the atheist does not. He lives a life of very serious constraint.
Like celibacy.
That's the big one. The source mentions that His Holiness has given up on certain activities in the bedroom.
Yes.
That is a massive biological sacrifice, to denial of a core evolutionary drive,
Although I have to mention, the source does have a very cheeky aside here about history. It doesn't let the papacy off the hook completely.
Oh, the Playboy popes?
Yes! Alexander IV, the Borgias. I mean, come on.
The source notes that historically, there were popes who fathered children well into their 60s.
By the conventional route, as the text says.
Not immaculate conception. No.
Okay.
Right. There was a time when the papacy was just as much about dynastic power and pleasure as it was about theology. But the source admits that this is old news. We can't judge the current pope by the standards of the 15th century.
Fair enough.
Modern popes generally stick to reading, praying, and leading the flock. They organize every minute of their lives according to Christian practices. That is a real, tangible difference. An atheist leader doesn't have a liturgy of hours to recite at 3 in the morning.
But wait, the source flips this too, because just when you think, okay, religious people have rituals, atheists have logic, the source challenges the idea that atheists don't have rituals at all.
This is one of my favorite parts of the whole deep dive. It's so insightful. We tend to think of religion as the domain of ritual. The incense, the bowing, the chanting.
Right, and we think of atheism as the domain of pure cold efficiency. No frills.
But the source says, just observe the behavior of a modern secular person in a city like New York or London.
What examples does it give?
Collective activities. Let's talk about the gym.
Oh no! I feel seen.
Yoga classes. Spinning classes. Think about a soul cycle class. Have you been to one?
I have. It's intense.
It's a dark room. There are candles. There is a charismatic leader at the front on a raised platform shouting inspirational mantras.
Yep. You are stronger than you think.
Everyone is moving in unison. There's a feeling of euphoria, of cleansing, of shared suffering for a greater good, in this case, a better body.
When you describe it like that, it sounds exactly like a revival tent meeting.
Doesn't it? Or consider the concert hall. The source describes sitting in a concert hall in awe and silence.
It's true. There is a strict code of conduct. You can't speak, you can't have your phone on, you can't smoke.
You can't shout stock buy orders on your cell phone. If you started checking your email in the middle of a Beethoven symphony, people would look at you like you just desecrated an altar.
There is a reverence, a genuine reverence.
There is a communal focus on a transcended experience, the music. And the source uses the Martian perspective here to really drive this home.
I love The Martian. It's such a great tool for this.
Imagine a Martian comes down to Earth. He has no concept of Jesus or Mozart. He just observes behavior. He hovers his little spaceship over a Catholic Mass on Sunday morning.
Okay, what does he see?
He sees people sitting in rows in a special building. Silence. Standing up, sitting down in unison. A leader in special clothes waving his arms and holding up a cup.
Got it.
Then the Martian hovers over a symphony orchestra performance on Friday night, attended by, let's say, a crowd of secular atheists.
What does he see there?
He sees people sitting in rows in a special building. Silence. A leader in special clothes. A tuxedo with tails waving his arms, a baton. A shared emotional experience in the crowd.
It's the same pattern.
To a Martian, these would look like indistinguishable ritualistic gestures. The Martian would just file it away and say, these are two tribes performing their weekly ceremonies. The fact that one is for a deity and one is for acoustic pleasure is a detail the Martian might miss entirely.
So the argument is that humans are ritualistic creatures by nature. We just swap out the theology.
We do.
If you take away the Mass, we replace it with the symphony or the yoga studio or the football stadium.
Exactly. The source suggests we have a God-shaped hole, and if we don't fill it with God, we fill it with something else that looks suspiciously like religion. And this reinforces the idea that the divide between believer and atheist isn't as wide as we think. Both have rituals. Both trust medicine in a crisis.
But surely there have been times when this wasn't true. I mean, we're painting a very rosy picture of human rationality here, but history is full of religious fanatics who did put dogma above survival, who didn't go to the Gemelli.
You are absolutely right, and the source acknowledges this. We can't ignore the dark side of this equation. It's not all kumbaya. It brings up the Albigensian Crusade to show us what it looks like when words and deeds actually align in a truly terrifying way.
This was the 13th century, right, in France?
Yes, a brutal, horrific period. The Catholic Church was trying to wipe out the Cathar heresy. The Cathars were a sect that challenged the Church's power. And so the Pope launched a crusade not against Muslims in the Holy Land, but against fellow Christians in Europe.
And there's that famous Schilling quote from that time. I think most people have heard it, even if they don't know where it comes from.
Kill them all. The Lord will know his own.
God, that just sends shivers down my spine.
Context is crucial. The papal legate, a man named Arnaud Amelric, was asked by a soldier how to tell the heretics from the faithful Catholics in the city of Béziers, which they were about to sack.
The soldier was worried about friendly fire, basically.
He was worried about killing good Christians by mistake. He was still operating with the distinction between friend and foe in this world.
And the response was basically, it doesn't matter.
Caedi eos, novid enim dominus qui sunt eos. Kill them all. The Lord will sort them out. Now, pause and think about the rationality there. It sounds insane to us. But if you truly believe, 100%, that the afterlife is the only thing that matters and that God is omniscient, then it is perfectly rational.
Right. Because if you kill a good Catholic by mistake, you're actually doing him a favor. You're sending him to heaven early.
Exactly. And if you kill a heretic, you're sending him to hell where he belongs. It's a win-win from that theological perspective.
So indiscriminate killing becomes a complexity reduction approach, as the source calls it. It's efficient.
It's hideously efficient.
Yeah.
That is a worldview where belief overrides survival instincts. It overrides the differentiation between friend and foe in the physical world. It makes the physical world completely irrelevant.
But the source says those times are long gone for the vast majority of us.
Thank goodness.
Most modern Christians, even the Pope, do not rely on the Lord sorting them out when it comes to medical or ethical decisions. We have moved away from that kind of totality.
We have.
So this leads us to a new way of categorizing people. This is the part of the deep dive that I found most helpful, personally. If we stop looking at labels like Christian or atheist and start looking at deeds, the source proposes 3 categories.
This is the taxonomy of the real. It cuts through all the noise.
Let's go through them. Category 1, atheist in actions, religious in words.
This is the biggest group. The source claims this includes most Orthodox and Catholic Christians today and probably most moderate religious people of any faith.
Atheist in actions? That sounds harsh to say to a believer.
It's not meant as an insult. It's a description of a survival strategy. When it comes to the mechanics of the world, medicine, politics, physics, engineering, they act according to secular rational rules.
They accept democracy.
They accept democracy. They accept oligarchy. They accept military dictatorships. They call them heathen regimes.
Right.
But they don't demand a theocracy to manage their sewer systems or their heart surgeries. They live in the secular world and play by its rules. Their religion is reserved for the spiritual realm, for the words and the decorations.
They are the Pope in the ambulance?
They are all the Pope in the ambulance.
Okay. Category 2. Religious in actions, religious in words.
These are the fundamentalists. The source gives the example of Salafi Islamists or suicide bombers. But it could apply to extreme cults of any kind.
People whose theology dictates their physical actions even to the point of death.
Exactly. If you blow yourself up because you believe paradise awaits, you are aligning your actions 100% with your words. There is no disconnect. You are not going to the Gemelli Clinic. You are going to the detonator.
You have skin in the game in the most tragic way possible.
It is the ultimate skin in the game. That is a stark contrast to the Pope.
It is the polar opposite. The Category 2 believer values the next world more than this one. The Category 1 believer values this one enough to call a doctor. Now, Category 3, this is the one that threw me. Atheist in actions and D-words.
Pure atheist.
And the source says, this person doesn't exist.
The source claims to know of nobody who fits this category completely.
Wait, hold on. Surely there are people who don't believe in God and act rationally. I mean, I know plenty of people who would call themselves atheists and they aren't suicide bombers.
Of course. But remember the definition of religion we touched on earlier with the rituals.
The concert hall.
Yoga class.
Exactly. The source argues that no one is completely devoid of rituals, respect for the dead, and superstitions. Even the staunchest atheist respects the dead. Why? If you are a pure materialist, a dead body is just rotting meat. It's carbon and water. But we don't treat it that way. We treat it with reverence. We have funerals. That's a ritual.
That's true. But the source goes deeper than just funerals. It talks about modern superstitions. And this is where I think we need to spend some real time, because this hit close to home for me.
This is the most provocative part of the entire argument, I think.
It is. The source argues that even if you reject the church, you probably have a religion that you don't even recognize as one.
And what is the biggest modern superstition?
Economics.
Ouch! Shots fired at the economists listening.
Or belief in the miraculous powers of the mighty state and its institutions.
That's a fascinating pivot. So the argument is that even if you don't believe in a guy with a beard in the clouds, you probably believe in the economy or the government in a way that is functionally religious.
Think about it structurally. Let's look at the stock market. How is it different from a religion?
Well, it's based on numbers. It's real money. It's tangible.
Is it? Or is it based on faith and confidence? Who are the central bankers? Who is the chairman of the Federal Reserve?
He's the guy who decides interest rates?
He is the high priest. He is the oracle. When he speaks, the markets tremble. People analyze his words. Like they're interpreting scripture. What did the oracle mean by transitory inflation?
We do treat them like oracles. We wait for the smoke to come out of the chimney at the Fed meeting to know the decision.
We do. And we have omens, the stock charts, the head and shoulders pattern, the death cross. We look at these squiggly lines and try to divine the future. We panic when the omens are bad. We feel euphoria when the omens are green.
And we have rituals.
We have so many rituals. We check our portfolio apps a dozen times a day. We vote. We pay taxes. These are rituals we perform with a faith that the system will deliver future rewards. We sacrifice money now, investing, for a promised paradise later called a retirement.
So we treat the Federal Reserve like the Vatican.
In a way. We believe the system has a sort of omnipotence. We believe the state can solve problems that are actually unsolvable, just like people believe prayer can solve problems. When the economy crashes, we look to the government to save us, exactly like a peasant in the Middle Ages looked to the church to stop the plague.
So the source is saying complete atheism is impossible because human beings are wired to believe in something larger than themselves that organizes their world.
We crave structure. We crave a system. We cannot handle the chaos of a truly random universe. So if we kill God, we invent the market. If we kill the market, we invent the state. The psychological mechanism, the faith, is surprisingly similar.
So the atheist in words and actions doesn't exist because to be human is to be irrational about something.
Exactly. You might be rational about medicine, but you are irrational about Bitcoin. You might be rational about physics, but you are irrational about your favorite political candidate. We all have our blind spots where we rely on magic.
This moves us into the philosophy of the whole piece, Section 5, the definition of rationality. Because we've been throwing this word around rational, the Pope acted rationally. But what does that actually mean?
This is the core philosophical pivot of the whole thing. We tend to think rationality is about what you know. Logic puzzles, IQ tests, being good at math.
I think, therefore I am, the ivory tower definition of rationality.
The source says no. That is completely wrong. Rationality resides in what you do.
It's not about your internal monologue. It's not about how smart you are or what you can prove on paper.
It's about survival. Rationality equals survival. That's the definition.
Wait, I want to struggle with that for a second. Rationality equals survival. So if I'm a complete idiot, but I manage to not die, I'm rational.
Yes, that is the evolutionary definition. If you have a complex, beautiful, logical philosophy that leads you to drink poison, you are irrational. If you have a crazy, superstitious, nonsensical worldview that leads you to avoid the poison, you are rational.
So results matter more than the process.
Survival matters more than coherence. And this connects directly to the concept of skin in the game.
A central theme of the source material.
Skin in the game means you pay a price for being wrong. You have exposure to the consequences of your own beliefs. And you only know what a person truly believes when they have skin in the game, when they have something to lose.
Talk is cheap.
Talk is free. The Pope can say anything about the power of prayer in a Sunday sermon. There is no cost to saying that. But when his life is on the line, When he has ultimate skin in the game, his rationality is revealed by the ambulance turning toward the hospital.
If you say you believe in miracles but you go to the hospital when you are shot, your rationality is survival-based. That's your revealed preference.
And that is what matters. The source argues that what you think inside your head is completely irrelevant to the definition of rationality if it doesn't manifest in survival actions.
So, you can believe the moon is made of green cheese. You can believe that Elvis is still alive. But as long as you don't try to fly to the moon without a helmet or eat only peanut butter and banana sandwiches until you have a heart attack, you can still be rational in a survival sense.
In a way, yes. If your delusions don't kill you, they are just decorations. They are wallpaper. But if your beliefs lead to voluntary death, like the Category 2 believers, the suicide bombers, then you are operating under a different framework. You have exited the realm of evolutionary rationality.
This leads to the consistency argument. And this is really the defense of the Pope. It basically says, stop worrying about the labels people use. Stop calling the Pope a hypocrite.
Exactly. The source argues that most Christians act like atheists in central medical and ethical matters, and that is a good thing. They trust the engineer to build the bridge, not the priest. They trust the pilot to fly the plane, not the prayer circle.
If I'm getting on a 747, I don't care if the pilot believes in Zeus, Jesus, or nothing at all. I care if he checks the flaps.
You care that he acts like a physicist? You care that he respects the laws of gravity?
Only a very few groups, like Christian Scientists, actually differ in action.
Right. There are groups that refuse blood transfusions or refuse modern medicine based on their beliefs. And the source makes a dark point here. Because they differ in action by refusing medicine, they often face natural selection consequences.
Their population doesn't tend to grow as robustly as those who use antibiotics.
It sounds cold, but survival selects for the atheist in action. Evolution favors the ambulance that goes to the hospital. Groups that systematically reject survival strategies tend to disappear over time.
So for the vast majority of us, whether we are devout Catholics, Jews, Muslims, or hardcore atheists, the distinction is decorative.
It's wallpaper. The load-bearing walls of our lives are built on the same survival instincts. We are all Gemelli Catholics when the bullet hits.
Well, it's a lot to process. It really forces you to look at your own life, your own beliefs. It feels like we've stripped away a lot of illusions.
It demands a certain intellectual honesty. It asks us to judge ourselves and our leaders by their feet, not their mouths. Where do their feet go when the fire alarm rings?
Do they run to the altar or do they run to the exit?
Exactly.
Let's try to synthesize this for the listener. We've covered a lot of ground here. We started with the Pope in 1981.
A moment of crisis that revealed a hidden truth.
We saw that despite being the ultimate religious figure, his team chose the atheist route of high-tech medicine.
Proving that survival takes precedence over theology in the real world.
We compared him to a hypothetical atheist leader and realized they are functionally identical in the ER.
Highlighting that our differences are mostly in rituals and lifestyle, the decorations, not in life and death decision-making.
We looked at the Martian view to see that atheists have rituals too.
SoulCycle is just mass with better cardio and more expensive leggings.
We looked at history, the Crusade, to see what it looks like when belief does override survival and how far we've come from that.
We moved from kill them all to save them all at the Polyclinic. Definite improvement.
And we categorize humanity not by their gods, but by their deeds, ending with the realization that rationality is just a fancy word for doing what keeps you alive.
And that atheism versus religion is often a false dichotomy when the chips are down.
So here's where it gets really interesting for you, the listener. We want to leave you with a final thought, a challenge, really.
We've established that the Pope acts like an atheist in the ER. We've established that most of us are atheists in action regarding physics and medicine.
But remember the modern superstitions. The source argued that no one is truly without a religion. We all have a God-shaped hole we're trying to fill.
We all have something we blindly trust, something we perform rituals for, something we believe will save us.
So if you are sitting there thinking, well, I'm a rational atheist, I don't have these contradictions, I laugh at the Pope for his fancy hats, think again.
If we admit that the Pope acts like an atheist in the ER, we also have to admit that the staunchest atheist acts like a religious devotee when trusting the economy or the government or their political tribe.
You might not light a candle in a church, but do you obsessively check the stock market? Do you blindly trust that the institution has your best interests at heart? Do you get a dopamine hit when your team wins an election, like a religious ecstasy?
Do you have faith in the invisible hand of the market? Do you sacrifice your time and happiness today for the promise of a future heaven called retirement?
So the question isn't, are you religious? The question is, what is the religion that you unknowingly practice every day?
And what rituals are you performing without even realizing it?
Maybe we are all a little bit more like the Pope than we care to admit.
And maybe the Pope is a little more like us.
That is the deep dive. Thanks for listening.
Stay rational, or at least try to survive.